Okay. So, as I have said, we welcome you again for our session tonight, Basic Hermeneutics, Principle of the Biblical Interpretation. Ang ating po course description in this study, the student will be introduced to the basic principles of biblical interpretation, know the importance of good translation, and learn to apply the basic principles of the different genre found in the Bible. Okay, purpose. Having completed this course, the students should be able to interpret any biblical passage using the methods presented in this course, provide a comprehensive overview of the hermeneutical principles for reading, studying, and understanding the Bible, which is God's Word. Okay, responsibility. Alam natin po yung responsibility ng bawat isa, online class attendance, completion of home assignments, course, and submittal to complete the study. Ang ating pong textbook, How to Read the Bible for All Its Worth by Gordon Fee and Douglas Stewart. Meron po tayong course outline, 5 part na gusto pa nating matackle to complete this basic hermeneutics. Sa ating pong part 1 is we talk about inductive Bible study methods, observation, interpretation, and application. So napakalaga po yung pag-aralan natin yan, no? Inductive Bible study, because we are using this kind of method even as we apply hermeneutics dun sa ating pong passage that we are trying to learn and interpret. Okay, yung ating pong part 2, basic principles of biblical interpretation, importance of hermeneutics, reader as an interpreter, the nature of scripture, the first task which is exegesis, second task hermeneutics, and then we talk about exegesis and practice of exegesis. So far natapos na po natin itong part 1 and part 2. Ito pong part, we are still somehow finishing na lang dito sa part 2 before we enter sa part 3 natin, yung all about Bible translation, importance of good translation, theories of translation, introduction to some English Bible translation, and Bible study tools. Part 4, interpretation of different literary types, interpretation of the gospel, interpretation of the parables, and then book of Acts, and then epistles, and then yung mga natitirang genre. Sa part 5 natin po itatakil yan, interpretation of the Old Testament narratives, the poetic books, the Old Testament prophecy, tsaka the book of Revelation. Okay, so yan po yung overview ng ating pong course outline into 5 parts. Now, ano po yung, because we have not met for 2 Sundays, ano ba yung mga lessons from our last session to tie up from our lesson tonight? Ito po yung mga napag-aralan natin so far nung bago tayo naghiwa-hiwalay. We need to pay attention to the context, which is the crucial task in exegesis na establish natin na we need to consider talaga yung context ng isang passage. Kasi yun ang pinaka-crucial task when we are doing an exegesis of a certain passage o yung gusto nating pag-aralan at i-interpret. So yung context is the key here, mga kapatid. Makuha natin yung context ng passage at mamaya i-establish natin bakit natin kailangan makuha yung context. At pag sinabi natin context, ito yung section limit ng passage na yon. So how important for us to paano natin ba matidetermine yung context as we have learned last time? We need to follow the subject. Okay, ma-distinguish natin yung context ng passage na gusto ninyong pag-aralan when you follow the subject. Kapag nag-iba na yung subject o yung topic, hindi na yung part ng context, no? Hindi na siya part ng context. As long as nandun yung subject na yon na repeatedly, sabi nga natin, mga words or ideas, dun yung magbibigay sa atin ng help for us to determine na part pa rin siya ng context na pinag-aaralan natin, no? Kaya mamaya bibigyan natin ng napakaraming example ito, mga kapatid, para maintindihan ninyo. And then the immediate context of a passage is the text directly before and after a certain passage. This is what we call contextual study. Napag-aralan natin yung contextual study. Pag sinabi natin contextual study, you are considering the text directly before and after the certain passage. No? Tinitingnan natin yung mga verses on top, verses down, at yun ang mag-determine yung context ng passage na gusto ninyong pag-aralan at interpret. At kapag yung task na yon, yung process na yon, yun yung tinatawag nating contextual study. No, you are making a context of a passage and you are considering yung mga verses before and after that passage that you want to interpret and understand. Okay, yun yung napag-aralan natin. Hindi na po natin ulitin ito. Parang I'm just repeating it just to connect us sa ating pong passage, sa ating pong topic tonight. Okay, simply stated, contextual study of the Bible attempts to understand the meaning of a certain verses in relation to the larger section where these verses form a part. Bakit kailangan natin consider yung larger section or the context of the passage? Because yun yung magbibigay sa atin ng proper understanding and meaning of a certain verse. Di ba? Napag-aralan natin last time that you cannot take the verse out of its context kasi hindi natin ma-determine lang ng isang verse lang o maintindihan natin yung meaning at interpretation ng isang verse na gusto mong i-interpret by its own. Kailangan nating i-consider yung meaning, ang interpretation yon on the larger section where this passage belong. Kaya nga dinidetermine natin yung context kasi pag na-determine ninyo yung context ng passage na pinag-aaralan natin, doon tayo mag-aaral at doon tayo makakakuha ng mga meaning ng certain passage na yon. Kasi there is a danger always na kapag you remove the text from its context, na talagang mamamali talagang ating interpretation kasi hindi natin kinukonsider yung pinaka-larger meaning or the larger section where this verse form a part. Kaya kailangan natin i-consider talaga yung context. So in doing contextual study, we need to look to the section limit of the difficult verse or passage we are studying. Last time, di ba, pinag-aralan natin yung section limit na kung ito yung verse natin, ano yung section limit? Hanggang saan ba dapat i-consider natin yung contextual study? Saan ba magmumula? Kung mag-uumpisa ba dito sa verse na ito at matatapos sa verse na yon, so kailangan natin ma-establish yung section limit. At pag sinabi natin section limit, yun yung pinaka-context ng passage where it belongs. Okay? Ang section limit, as what we have learned last time, identify natin yung section where the verse is located. Read the verses, paragraphs, or chapter before and after a certain verse to get the main section where the verse is located. Makikita natin yung section limit kung i-consider natin yung mga verses, mga paragraph, mga chapter before and after the certain verse para makuha natin yung pinaka-main section o yung tinatawag nating context or section limit nitong verse na ito. Usually, verses do not have a meaning of their own. Yun yung sinasabi ko. Kapag we try to interpret only one verse out of its context, you will not have really the right meaning of it. They get their meaning from the larger story or section on which these verses form a part. Kaya nga, napaka-importante para malaman natin ang tunay na meaning at interpretation ng isang passage, kailangan nating i-consider yung larger section of it kasi doon natin makikita talaga mga kapatid kung ano ang meaning talaga nitong passage na ito. For example, kung isang passage lang yung pinag-aaralan ninyo or two passages or two verses, na kapag iyon lang ang i-consider ninyo at hindi niyo siya i-consider yung larger context of it, magiging limited tayo in knowing the meaning of it. Kasi maaring ang tunay na ang karagdagan at ibang mga meaning at interpretation ay hindi nakasalalay dun lang sa verse na yon, kundi from the larger context where it belongs. Kaya kailangan natin ma-establish lagi yung section limit nung verse na yon. Kaya talagang sabi nga natin, malawak ang pag-aaral natin mga kapatid when we do hermeneutics. If you really want to get the right meaning, the intended meaning of the author, kailangan natin talaga na makuha yung section limit, yung context. Kasi yun yung very crucial when you are doing an exegesis of a certain passage. Kaya dapat malaman ninyo where is this section limit of this verse where it is part of. Okay? So nakita natin po yan. So thus, it is important to start with identifying the section where the verse is located before interpreting and meaning of the verse. Always interpret according to the context of your Bible passage. So, sabi ko nga, ang unang task natin dito, hindi ka kagad mag-i-interpret. Okay, kung meron kang isang verse, hindi mo kagad i-interpret yon. The most important thing to start in understanding that passage is to identify the section where this verse is located. At mamaya makikita natin yon paano ito nakakadagdag dun sa verse na gusto nating i-interpret. Makikita natin lagi yung kahalagahan kapag ito'y ini-interpret natin on the larger section where it belongs. So, always interpret according to the context of your Bible passage. Kailangan nating mag-interpret lagi ng kung saan nakapaloob itong verse na ito at yung tinatawag nating context. At yung pamamaraan na yon ay yung tinatawag nating contextual study. Okay? At yung context na yon, yun din yung sinasabi nating section limit. Yun yung limit niya. Ibig sabihin, kapag pinag-aralan natin, ito yung limit mo. Hindi ka na pwedeng tumaas kasi iba na yung subject to. Hindi ka na pwedeng bumaba doon sa limit na yun kasi iba na yung topic din na dinidiscuss. Kaya itong limit na ito, doon ang parang ang hangganan o yung boundary where you need to consider your verse, and from those verses on up and down, yun ang nagdedetermine din ng right meaning of the verse you want to know and interpret. Okay, so I hope you are able to get that, no, mga kapatid, kasi napaka-importante nga itong section limit. Now, pag sinabi natin contextual study o dinedetermine natin yung section limit, bakit kailangan natin i-consider yon? Kasi kung titingnan natin yung section limit ninyo, kapag na-determine ninyo yung section limit na dito mag-uumpisa ito, dito matatapos, ito ay hindi lamang magbibigay sa inyo ng right meaning and understanding and interpretation of your verse where it belongs, pero ito na ang magiging limit ng iyong kung saan kukuha ka ng inyong mga points o yung mga unit points na gusto mong establish kapag gagawa ka na ng teaching mo o sermon mo, doon mo na siya babase doon sa section limit. Okay, kaya nga po napaka-importante ma-establish natin yung section limit o yung context ng passage na yan kasi doon tayo gagawa ng tinatawag nating para nag-outline na tayo, no? In preparation sa paggawa natin ng mga teaching, sa paggawa natin ng mga preaching natin. Parang i-outline na natin yung section limit na yan at i-establish na natin yung mga main points at ano yung mga sub-points para ma-establish natin yung verse mo. Okay? Now, yung contextual study, kailangan nating ma-establish yung pinaka-section main idea. Di ba? Meron kang section limit. Now, pag sinabi nating section main idea, ano bang ibig sabihin nito? So, after getting the section limit, nakuha mo yung section limit mo. Kunyari, verse 10 yung gusto mong pag-aralan. Tapos nakita mo na ang section limit niya ay magi-start sa verse 1, matatapos sa verse 12. So 12 verses ang i-consider mo na gusto mong pag-aralan out of verse 10. So nakuha mo na yung section limit. Okay? Now, kapag natapos na natin, natagpuan na natin yung section limit ng verse mo, ang pinakaunang pamamaraan now to make an hermeneutics and exegesis of that is that you state the main idea of the section in 1 or 2 sentences. Para ba sinasabi natin dito, mga kapatid, 12 verses tayo. Okay? Now, how do you summarize that 12 verses in 1 or 2 sentences? At yun yung pinaka-main idea mo na gusto mong establish, na gusto mo ngayong i-preach, na para bang ito na yung para magiging title ng teaching mo, na para bang ito ngayon yung magiging topic ng preaching mo, na parang inilagay mo lang yung kabuuan ng 12 verses na yan, sinamarize mo into a main idea that you can now express it in 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, so parang ganun yung ang gagawin natin dahil 12 verses yan, no? Ngayon, out of that 12 verses, ano bang sinasabi nitong 12 verses na ito? Ano ba yung main idea nitong 12 verses na ito? At yun yung tinatawag nating main idea of the section limit. And when you had established that, you can now summarize those 12 verses into one or two sentences. Okay, yun yung pinaka-main idea natin. Okay? Now, after that, mamaya, just put that first into our mind, no? Dinidefine lang po na natin ito. Mamaya, bibigyan ko kayo ng mga example about this. Okay, what is the main idea of a section? Ano bang ibig sabihin ng main idea, no? Kunyari, 12 verses. Now, what is the main idea of these 12 verses? The main idea is usually composed of the subject, which is constantly repeated and emphasized in the section. Di ba? Binigyan ko kayo ng dalawang distinguishing mark for you to establish the section limit. Tingnan niyo kung paulit-ulit na yung tinatawag nating subject ay inuulit-ulit sa bawat verses. So, ibig sabihin, malalaman natin na part pa rin itong verse na ito kasi yun pa rin na sinasabi niyang theme or topic. At the same time, mga repeated words na pinauulit-ulit. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, kasama rin yun sa section limit natin. Ngayon, the same thing when we talk about the main idea. The main idea is usually composed of the subjects which is being repeated out of those verses, which is constantly repeated lang and emphasized throughout that section. Kaya kung verses 1 to 12 ang ating pong section limit, ito yung ating context at pinag-aaralan mo yung verse 10. So, ibig sabihin, when we talk about the main idea, out of that 11, 12 verses, meron diyang mga pauulit-ulit na mga subject na binibigyan ng repetition at ini-emphasize throughout that section limit. Okay? Paulit-ulit niyang binabanggit yon. Kaya mapapansin mo talaga na ito yung main idea na ito. Kasi from verses 1 to 12, yun lang pinauulit-ulit nitong writer. Kaya ma-establish mo kagad yung main idea. Okay, so it is important to know the main idea of a section. Bakit kailangan natin ma-establish yung main idea ng section limit mo? Because it does affect the meaning of the verse inside the section which we are trying to interpret. Kailangan natin ma-establish yung main idea, mga kapatid, kasi makaka-apekto yan doon sa meaning. Kasi sabi nga natin, makakatulong yan do sa meaning ng verse inside that section that we are trying to interpret. Kailangan natin i-consider yon, yung mga verses na yon, at ma-establish yung main idea kasi yung main idea na yan ang makatutulong sa atin para ma-establish natin yung interpretation ng verse na gusto nating i-interpret. Okay, so nasabi nga na malinaw po yon, no? So we will try to explain that further into an example. Okay? Now, then establish mo na yung main idea. Nabase mo yung 12 verses, yun yung section limit natin. Ang gusto mong intindihin, verse 10 kunyari, kinonsider mo yung section limit, verses 1 to 12. Tapos, tinignan mo yung flow ng 12 verses na yan at meron doon mga theme na pinauulit-ulit o words. And then you establish now the main idea na parang sinamarize mo yung 12 verses na yon kung ano yung sinasabi doon out of 12 verses in one or two sentences. Okay, so ito yung gusto mong i-present, this one or two sentences. So yun yung tinatawag nating main idea of your section limit. Okay, it may be later on, ito na yung magiging title mo. Later on, ito yung mga nagiging parang preaching topic mo. And it is just expressed in a very one or two sentences. But then, kapag gumawa ka ng topic, you can just make it parang na medyo maiksi na lang. Pero later on, i-expound mo na lang yon out of one or two sentences. Okay, so units of the section. Ngayon, pag na-establish mo na yung main idea of a section limit, i-determine naman natin yung units of the section. Ano sinasabi natin units of the section? 12 verses yan, mga kapatid. Although, yung 12 verses na yan, mga kapatid, contributes to the whole. Na meron siyang isang topic lang or something or subject na pinauulit-ulit yan. But then, i-divide mo ngayon yung 12 verses niyan. Alin dito sa mga verses na ito ang makakasama? Maybe 1 verses 1 and 3, magkakasama ito. Tapos maybe 4 and 5, or 4 or 6, ito magkakasama. And then rest from 7 down to 12, paring isa sa lang as a whole. So bakit natin dinidivide yon into different units? Why do we divide yung mga section na yan? Kasi 12 verses yan, mga kapatid. You cannot just consider that as a whole. I-divide mo yung 12 verses, alin ba dito sa mga verses na ito na magkakapareha siya, na yun din ang sinasabi doon na although isang main idea lang ang kino-contribute nitong lahat ng verses na ito, pero sino dito ang makakasama? It's either 1 to 4 or 5 to 8 or 9 to 12. Okay, so i-divide mo siya into two different units. Now, bakit natin dinidivide yung section into different units? Bakit natin ginagawa yon? It's a smaller unit ngayon. Nagko-contribute yan in developing the main idea. Di ba may main idea tayo, one or two sentences. Ngayon, bakit mo nasabi na meron kang one, paano mo nasabi yung one or two sentences? Paano mo ipuprove yun? Ang ipuprove yan out of the verses. Kaya yung mga smaller unit na yan, yung mga kung sino yung makakasama, yun nagko-contribute niyan doon sa main idea na pinipresent mo. Okay, ito na yung mga points mo. Kaya kung pag nagpipits tayo, di ba, meron kang introduction. Yun yung main idea mo that I am proposing to you now, na out of one or two sentences, yun yung pinaka-main idea na nakita mo section limit. Now, to establish that main idea, dahil meron kang 12 verses, i-divide mo yan into different sub-points. Kaya yung sa teaching mo, meron kang point 1, meron kang point 2, may point 3, at yung tatlong point na yan, nagko-contribute, yun ang bumubuo nung main idea mo. Okay? So, the verse we are interpreting belongs to one of these units. At yung verse na yon ay nakapaloob doon sa mga unit na yon. Maaaring nasa unit, doon sa unang unit, maaaring sa pangalawang unit, o sa pangatlong unit. So, by determining how the specific unit where our verse belongs contributes to the main idea, we get further understanding about the verse we are interpreting. So parang hinihimay-himay ninyo yung 12 verses. Inugrupo-grupo ninyo kung sino dito ang makakasama at kung ilan man yon, yun yung tinatawag nating unit points that contributes doon sa pinaka-main idea na you want to present. Okay? At doon ma-determine natin saan ba dito sa unit point nakapaloob yung verse na gusto mong i-interpret. Okay? So yun po yun. Okay, now, what can help us determine the units? Ngayon, paano mo masasabi alin dito sa mga verses na ito magkakasama? Ano ang mag-guide sa akin para ma-determine ko kung alin dito sa mga verses na ito magkakasama sa isang unit? Meron po tayong tinatawag, ma-determine mo yan, the tools that help us determine the section are the same tools, yun pa rin. Yung that we need to enumerate, sabi, are the same tools that we will need to enumerate the different units. In the smaller scale, we need to follow the subject. Ganun pa rin. I-follow mo yung subject niya. Take note mo rin ang mga repeated words or ideas. Look for literary markers to determine its paragraph. For example, I will give you example. Out of the 12 verses, itong writer, nag-umpisa siya na parang plain lang siya, literal ang kanyang pagkakasabi ng topic niya. Kunyari, verses 1 to 4, very plain siya. Hindi siya figurative. Pero after that 1 to 4 verses, nag-shift siya ng 5, for example, 5 to 8, hindi na siya literal. Parang nagbibigay na siya ng figurative to illustrate yung subject. So dito makikita natin na ang magkakasama 1 to 4 kasi plain lang siya. Then 5 down to kung ano man yung last kung saan nagtapos yung figurative speech. So magkakasama sila. And then yung after that, maybe isang unit na siya. O kung nag-start uli yung author ng plain meaning uli, yung talagang very literal siya sa sinasabi, hindi siya nagbibigay ng, hindi siya nagsasalita in a figurative speech. So ibig sabihin, madidetermine natin yan kasi makikita niyo yung literary markers. Kapag si literary markers, masabi kung mga nagbibigay na siya ng mga figurative speech or anything na parang makikita natin na ito, kaiba ito, isang section unit ito compared do sa mga ibang mga verses. Ma-determine natin yan. Or mga repeated words or ideas na itong words na ito, makita mo sa verses 1 to 4. Naman, meron namang words na 3 to 5, yun naman din ang paulit-ulit. So, 3 to 5 ang magkasama. 1 to 4 ay magkakasama kasi because of the words being repeated out of that verses. So, malalaman ninyo yan mga kapatid, madedetermine nyo yan when you are studying the context. Alin ba dito sa mga verses na ito ang magkakasama as a unit and then ano yung magkakasama as a second unit or ilan yung mga ma-establish yung unit na nakabase ngayon doon sa section limit natin on the larger scale. Okay? Now, unit main points. Just take note lang po ha. Kasi bibigyan natin ito ng example mamaya para lubos ninyo maintindihan. Okay, ano naman yung tinatawag nating unit main points? Unit main points state the main point of the units in one or two sentences. Okay, anong pagkakaiba ng unit main point sa main idea? Yung main idea ninyo is that yung pinaka-overall na idea of the whole verses. Ngayon, yung unit main points naman, it state the main point of the units in one or two sentences. Kunyari, 1 to 3 yung unang unit mo. 4 to 5 yung susunod mong unit. Then 6 down to the last verse, yun yung tatlong yun yung last unit mo. Ngayon, kung 1 to 4 is the unit itself. Ngayon, dahil 4 verses yan, paano mo lalagay yan, yung 4 verses na yan, into 1 or 2 sentences? Okay, parang ginawa mo yung 12 verses, ginawa mo siyang isa. Ngayon, to sa main unit, sa mga unit points mo naman, dahil maraming verses yan, maggagawa ka ngayon ng main point o main unit main point nitong point na ito. Ano ba sinasabi nitong 4 verses na ito? And you can establish that into 1 or 2 sentences na yun yung sinasabi nitong verses na ito. Ngayon, sa unit 2 mo, ito naman, ano ba sinasabi nito? State it in 1 or 2 sentences. So, kung 3 points ka, meron kang 3 unit, bawat unit mo, meron kang main points kasi sinasummarize mo kung ano yung sinasabi dun sa mga verses na nakapaloob dun sa point. Okay, so what is the main point of a unit? The main point of the unit describes how a specific unit contributes to the main idea of the section. Kung ano bang, sabi ko nga, yung bawat point na yan, nagko-contribute dun sa main idea mo. Kaya yung 1 or 2 sentence mo sa bawat unit point, yun ay nagko-contribute doon sa pinaka-main idea mo. Okay? So, yun po yun. Interpretation. So, after that, kapag natapos ninyo, na-establish na ninyo yung mga unit points ninyo, nagkaroon na kayo ng main points sa bawat point, then that's the time now that we will interpret what you have made. Ang pag sinasabi ng interpretation, interpret the verse in relation to the main idea ngayon. Dahil nakuha mo na yung main idea ng buong 12 verses. So, ibig sabihin, yung verse mo pala na isa na yon nakapaloob dun sa, yun na yun. No? Yun na yung pinaka-interpretation of that verse, yung kabuuan, at makikita mo yan dun sa main idea ng section mo. Dahil kaya yung nga yun ang pinipresent mo. So, yun yung magiging interpretation of that verse kung saan nakapaloob siya. And the main points of the units which is forms apart. At hinihimay-himay lang natin yung main idea na yon into different units which it forms apart. And then kapag na-establish natin yung interpretation, gagawa na tayo ng principle. Ano ba yung timeless message itong section limit na ito? Na pag sinabi nating principle, ito yung timeless message or principle of the text after you made the exegesis that has been done na pwede na natin dalhin and applicable in our contemporary time. And then after that, that's the time that you will do your application. Now, how do we apply all these things in our contemporary time? Having all this interpretation, having the timeless principle and message, now how do we apply this in our time today in 2024. So it is the process of correlating the principle of Bible text to our contemporary situation. We ask God to help us live out the principles we have derived from the Bible. Neglecting the stage, we live as, sabi nga natin, with head knowledge alone, and the insights we receive through our Bible study will make only little only difference at all. So sabi nga natin, naging magaling ka man sa pag-interpret ng Bible, pero kung hindi mo ma-establish yung application niyan, then it will not just be a knowledge alone and insights that we have received but no difference in our lives. Kaya kapag nagpipis tayo, nagtuturo, hindi lang binibigay ninyo yung right interpretation ng passage mo. Pero at the end of that time, meron kang mga application. Yung mga points mo, ini-establish mo how do we apply these points. Okay, paano ba natin ililib itong mga principle na ito na nakita natin sa passage na ito? Because without application, mga kapatid, our process of bringing the word of the Lord is incomplete, no? Kasi ang gusto ng Panginoon is to not for them to know only it, but for them to apply it in their lives. And we help them to understand it at the same time as they understand, we help them to apply it in our lives. Kaya meron tayong application. Tinuturo natin paano natin i-apply yung mga principle na nakita natin on a certain verse. Okay? Now put that always into your mind, okay? When you do a section limit, establish the main idea of that section limit in one or two sentences. Now, out of that section, i-divide mo yon into different units. At bawat unit, magkakaroon ka ng summary in one or two sentences to establish ano yung nakita natin sa mga verses na yun. And all these points, idea, contribute to the main idea. Parang hinihimay lang ninyo yung idea ninyo into different points. And at yun nga, sabi ko nga sa inyo, kapag natutunan ninyo ito, how to do a section limit, when you do a main idea of that section limit, establish the unit points, and you are able to establish the main idea of that points, yun na po yung mga preaching ninyo. Yun na yung outline ninyo. Yun na yung yun na yung parang i-expound na lang ninyo. Lalagyan nyo na lang ng konting illustration, konting na lang application, and that's it. Yun na po yung message natin, mga kapatid. Kaya napakainam po na talagang matutunan niyo ito kasi ito yung way for us to hindi lang na-interpret natin na maayos yung verse mo, kundi somehow na-establish mo yung section limit. At the same time, it helps you now to establish what you want to teach, what you want to preach. At makikita natin, kaya ninyo dinidivide yung mga points is because yun yung nagko-contribute do sa pinaka-main idea na gusto ninyong i-present sa inyong tinuturuan at sa inyong nasasakupan. Okay? Now, let's have a very great example. Nung last time, pinag-aralan natin yung 1 Corinthians 5:5. Now, if you open your Bible, we need a Bible here. So, you get your Bible, mga kapatid. As we go along online. Di ba? Pinag-aralan na natin last time sa ating last lesson yung 1 Corinthians 5:5. Ano ba yung 1 Corinthians 5:5? Ang sabi po dito, okay, let me read for all. Read with me with your Bible. Okay. Ang sabi dito, so verse 5, ang sabi niya dito, hand this man over to Satan so that the sinful nature may be destroyed and his spirit saved on the day of the Lord. Okay, yan yung verse mo. Okay, yan yung gusto mong i-present. 1 Corinthians 5:5. Ngayon, ano ba ang section limit to? Dahil napag-aralan natin, hindi pwedeng you take this out of context. Hindi mo pwedeng i-preach lang yan ng verse 5 lang. Kasi, for example, if you will just preach by verse 5 lang, tingnan nyo po, ito lang ang ipipresentin nyo. Hand this man over to Satan so that the sinful nature may be destroyed and his spirit saved on the day of the Lord. Okay, yun yung pinipresent mo. Ngayon, number one na dapat mong intindihin kung magpo-focus ka lang sa verse 5, anong ibig sabihin ng hand this man over to Satan? What is that? Literal ba yan? Ano ba sinasabi nito? Okay, kung magpo-focus ka lang sa verse 5, anong ibig sabihin? Paano mo ipepresent to sa tao? Paano mo i-explain? Ano bang ibig sabihin niya? Kung hindi mo titingnan yan on the context itself, hindi mo establish yung section limit ng verse 5. Kaya nga last time, ang unang step ninyo kapag gagawa tayo ng exegesis, pag may hermeneutics tayo, okay, meron kang verse, hanapin mo muna, step 1, tandaan niyo, step 1, establish first what is the section limit of your verse. At napag-aralan natin last time, nakapaloob ang verse 5 at ang section limit niya ay from verses 1 down to 13. Kaya kapag in-establish mo ngayon yan, yung 13 verses na yan, diyan mo malalaman ano bang ibig sabihin yung hand this over this man to Satan. Kasi doon mo makikita yan, doon sa section limit. Kasi by verse 5, you will not be able to know what is that. At hindi mo pwedeng establish yun by its own. You will be out of context. Kaya nga yung danger, marami nagpipitch na hindi tinitingnan yung section limit. Kasi nagpo-focus lang sa isa at sometimes hindi na yun yung real interpretation. If I will ask you, what do you mean by handing this man into to Satan? Ano ibig sabihin, no? No, paano mo i-expound yun sa preaching mo kung hindi mo pinag-aralan yung section limit? Kasi dun sa section limit mo, yung context, doon malalaman, ito pala ang ibig sabihin nun. Okay? It is a figurative speech. Hindi yan literal. When sinabi ni Paul to hand this over to Satan, it is a figurative speech. Hindi siya literal yan. So how do we study that? Then we have to consider the section limit. So this is because, bakit nag-umpisa lang siya sa chapter 5 verse 1 to 13? Kasi yung earlier, chapter 1 hanggang chapter 4 ng 1 Corinthians, iba na ang topic na dinidil ni Paul. Ang makikita natin sa verse chapter 1 up hanggang chapter 4 verse 21, ang dinidil dito ni Paul is division of the church, yung nature of church leadership, which is entirely different from the main subject of removing an immoral brother in the church in 1 Corinthians 5, 1 to 13. Okay? So dito, makikita natin, kung sa inyong mga Bible, meron lang sa start pa lang ng verse 1 in chapter 5, meron lang nakalagay on top na parang yun na yung parang theme o yung idea. Kasi on my Bible, nakalagay na dito, expel the immoral brother. Doon sa taas nung umpisa ng chapter 5, verse 1, meron lang nilalagay ang mga Bible ninyo na ito yung topic na dinidil dito sa limit na ito. Kaya ibig sabihin pala, from verses 1 to 13, ang dinidil pala dito is expelling, removing a brother, an immoral brother inside the church. Yung pala ang kabuuan nitong 113 na nakapaloob yung verse 5 mo. So from parang makikita mo pa lang na yung 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 5 may kinalaman pala on removing an immoral brother in the church. So meron na tayong hint na kagad na merong kinalaman itong giving this man to Satan when it comes to the removing of an immoral brother in the church. Kasi doon pala makikita ninyo the section limit, yun yung pinaka main idea nitong verse nung 1 to 13. Ang pinaka-main idea ng verses 1 to 13, yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, di ba? Meron kayong section limit. And then ang section main idea ninyo is removal or removing an immoral brother in the church. At yun yung binabanggit dito sa verse 1 to 13, kung saan nakapaloob yung gusto mong i-share, which is verse 5. Okay? Now let's go. Let's go. Let's go on. In this case, the putting of out of an immoral brother, di ba sabi natin, how do I establish na saan ba matatapos yung section limit ko? Di ba sabi natin, ang magdidistinguishing mark dyan is yung paulit-ulit na subject, mga repeated words, yung mga ideas na pinauulit-ulit sa mga verses na yan, ibig sabihin, kasama yan doon sa section limit. Tingnan nyo po, from verses 1 down to 13, meron siyang idea na paulit-ulit lang. At yung pinaulit-ulit dito ni Paul sa mga verses na ito, yung putting out an immoral person. Sa verse 2, tingnan niyo po, the one who had done this deed might be removed from your midst. Ibig sabihin, yung gumagawa daw ng ito, kailangan i-remove sa ating kalagitnaan. Yun ang sinasabi sa verse 2. Sa verse 5, tingnan niyo po, I have decided to deliver such a one to Satan. Okay, sa verse 7, clean out the old leaven that you may be a new lump. Tanggalin daw natin yung old leaven na yan so that we may be old lump. Tingnan niyo po sa verse 7, hindi na sa literal yan. Figurative speech na yan. Kaya mamaya makakatulong yan sa inyo sa unit point. Ibig sabihin, verse 2 and 5, maaaring hindi yan kasama sa unit point ng verse 7 kasi dito sa verse 7, figurative na ang ginagawa ni Paul. So maaaring isang unit ito. Titingnan natin mamaya. Kasi makikita din niyo yan kapag pinag-aralan ninyo, yung nag-o-observe kayo nung mga verses, malalaman ninyo sino dito ang magkakasama, yung sinasabi nating unit point. Okay, so dito sa verse 7, clean out. So figurative na ito. Verse 9, I write you in my letter not to associate with immoral people. O so, ganun din ang sinasabi ni Paul. So kasama yung verse 9. Sa 11, ganun din ang sinasabi niya, I wrote to you not to associate with any so-called brother. Ganun din ang sinasabi niya sa buong verses na yan. And then verse 13, remove the wicked man from yourselves, no? From yourselves. Okay, sorry for that. So dito, out of verse 13 verses, ulit-ulit yung main idea, yung idea na putting out an immoral brother. Okay? Yun yung main idea na makikita ninyo typical sa lahat ng verses na ito. So, kung yun ang makikita natin, so yun yung main idea nung section limit. Putting out an immoral or putting out an immoral brother or expelling. Yun ang ibig sabihin yan. So, ang tinatakil pala ni Paul from verses 1 to 13 is that putting out an immoral person in our midst, in our church, no, in our assembly. Yun ang sinasabi dito. No? Kaya yun yung pinaulit-ulit dito. Kaya ma-establish mo, talagang ang section limit itong verse 5 na gusto kong intindihin is verse 1 down to verse 13. Kasi yung idea, paulit-ulit yan, na pinaulit-ulit ni Paul throughout these verses, throughout this section limit. Okay? Now, 1 Corinthians 6 ngayon. Ngayon, natapos tayo sa verse 13. Bakit hindi ko na isasama yung chapter 6? Di ba? Chapter 5, verse 1 to 13 ang context natin. Bakit hindi ko pwedeng isama ng verse ang chapter 6? Kasi yung chapter 6, iba na ang tinatakil ni Paul. Kasi kung babasahin ninyo ang chapter 6, umpisa pa lang sa verse 1, ang tinatakil dito ni Paul, lawsuits among believers. Yung nagkakaroon ng kusot yung mga believers and they are suing one another in pagan courts. So, hindi na siya kasama dun sa section limit mo na chapter 1 at chapter 5 verse 1 to 13. So, ang section limit mo hindi na kasama yung chapter 6 kasi iba na siya. So, ang section limit ngayon natin nung chapter 5 sabi nga natin chapter 5 verse 5 is that ang context niyan, ang section limit niyan is 1 Corinthians 5 starting from verse 1 and it ends on verse 13. And it should be considered as one section different from the chapters up and different from chapter 6. Kasi ito ang makakasamang verses na ito as one unit. Although 13 verses siya. Pero out of the 13 verses, meron na siyang main idea. Okay, so natagawa mo na yung step 1. Step 2, na-establish mo yung section limit. Step 2 mo, establish mo yung main idea ng mga verses na yan. Ano ba yung tinutukoy nitong verse 13 verses na ito? Pinaulit-ulit. Di ba na-establish natin na ang pinaka-main idea ng verses na yan, remove the man who has his father's wife from among you. So anong sinasabi nito? Yung immoral brother who had committed sexual immorality, okay, should be removed among us. Yun yung pinauulit-ulit. Yun yung in-establish nitong 13 verses na ito na tanggalin daw yung isang immoral brother, ang isang sexual immoral brother on our midst. Okay, yun yung pinaka-main idea natin. Ngayon, na, na-establish mo na yung one or two sentence nung main idea nito, 13 verses. Parang sinamarize mo lang yung 13 verses na yon in one or two sentences at yun yung main idea mo nung section limit na yon. Yun yung i-present natin na parang ito yung topic mo. Removal of man or we talk about sexual immorality, no? Siguro yun yung topic mo at gagamitin mo nga yung 1 Corinthians 5:5 at ang context mo, section limit mo is verses 1 to 13. Okay, so yun yung tapos in-establish mo yung out of that 13 verses, you make it into one, sinabarize mo yung 13 verses na yan in one or two sentences, yun yung main idea na ipe-present mo. Okay? Now, 13 verses tayo. Alin dyan ang magkakasama? Sabi ko nga, step 3, alin dyan sa 13 verses na yan ang magkakasama? Okay? Alin yung isang hulang ba yan, isang unit point, or ilan sa mga verses ang pwedeng i-group as one, and then yung susunod, magkakasama ito, and then later on. Now, on our study, we can establish 3 unit section of verses 1 down to 13. Ang magkakasama daw is verses 1 to 5. Second unit mo is verse 6 to 8. Third unit mo is verses 9 to 13. Okay. Parang hinihimay-himay mo yung 13 verses. Alin dito sa 13 verses ang magkakasama na yun din ang pinauulit-ulit. Na dito naman 6 to 8 and then 9 to 13. Now, what is the reason for dividing section 113 into 3 paragraphs? Bakit natin dinivide ito into 3 different section? Bakit hindi isang section lang? Some repeated words were identified that Paul used in his changing style of writing. Di ba? Kung makikita natin dito sa out of that 13 verses mga kapatid, bakit pinagsama-sama natin yung 1 to 5, 6 to 8 at 9 to 13? Because of the style of the writing of Paul. Although isa lang ang binabanggit nila out of that 13 verses, mahirap establish yung sino yung makakasama. Pero if we will try to observe yung style ng writing ni Paul, may pagkakaiba po yung mga verses na yan. Tingnan niyo po, verse 1 to 5, the subject of removing the immoral man has his father's wife is discussed in a plain language. Hindi siya gumagamit ng mga figurative speech. Very plain lang ang sinasabi ni Paul dito, no? Very casual lang yung discussion niya about the subject of removing the immoral man. But then, nag-shift siya from verse 6 to 8. Yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, no? Tingnan niyo po yung Bible niyo, so, verse 6 to 8. Okay? Ang sabi dito, kung titingnan natin, at babasahin natin, ba't magkasama po yung verses 6 to 8? Sabi dito, no? Your boasting is not good. Don't you know that little yeast works through the whole batch of dough? Get rid of the old yeast that you may be a new batch without yeast, as you really are. For Christ, one Passover lamb has been sacrificed. Therefore, let us keep the festival not with the old yeast and the yeast of malice and the wickedness, but the bread without yeast and bread of sincerity and truth. So, kung makikita ninyo, Paul shifts to a more figurative discussion using the Passover terminology. He's using about Passover, yung mga leaven, no? Di ba? The language of leaven alone was mentioned 7 times from verses 6 to 8. So makikita ninyo, magkakasama itong 6 to 8 kasi yung leaven, pinaulit-ulit na wala kang makikitang leaven sa 1 to 5. Yung word na leaven, wala kang makita sa 1 to 5. Pero dito sa 6 to 8, pinaulit-ulit ni Paul yung leaven. At karamihan dito, binabanggit is Passover. At the same time, meron siyang mga figurative speech na binabanggit sa 6 to 8. Kaya ang makakasama ngayon, verse 6 to 8, and then makita nyo sa verse 9 to 13, after ng verse 8, nag-shift na naman si Paul na parang 1 to 5, na very plain language niya as he conclude his discussion. Na parang dino-conclude na niya yung sinasabi niya out of these verses. Tingnan niyo po, no? Kaya nga kung yung observation ninyo, yung inductive Bible study niyo, when you just observe the words, malalaman ninyo mga kapatid kung sino dito yung mga makakasama. But just looking unto the words, repeated ideas, mga pinauulit-ulit na itong word na ito, nakita ko dito sa verses to, pero wala naman doon sa taas. Wala naman. So itong makakasama nito. Okay, so it will really help you all. Follow the subject. Take note of repeated words. Sabi ko nga, ulit-ulit lang yan mga kapatid. Yan yung then check the style of the writing of the writer. Makita natin. Okay, it will help you also to distinguish yung mga unit point. Okay, kaya nga ngayon, na-establish na natin out of that 13 verses, may 3 points pala na sinasabi dito si Paul. At itong mga points na ito, it contributes dun sa main idea. Okay? Now, so na-establish na natin yung 3 points. 'Di ba sabi nga natin, when you establish that point, you have now to make a main idea of that point. Okay, meron kang 5 verses sa 1 to 5. Ngayon, out of that 5 verses, paano mo isa-summarize yung 5 verses into a main idea of 1 or 2 sentence lang? Or it can be 1 sentence lang. Ano sinasabi dito sa verse 1 and 5? Sa 6 to 8, ano sinasabi ni Paul? So make it na sa 1 sentence lang. Isa-summarize mo siya. Verses 9 to 13, make a main idea of this point into 1 or 2 sentences. And all these points of these 3 unit contribute now to the main idea nung kabuuan ng 1 to 13. Para bang yung main idea, hinimay-himay mo at ini-establish mo nung mga point. Di ba kapag nagpe-present tayo ng pitching, meron kang topic, meron kang introduction. Okay, yung introduction mo, may kinalaman doon sa main idea mo, yun ang pinipresent mo. Okay, to establish that main point, yung introduction mo, i-establish mo ngayon yung, bakit mo nasabi yan? Nasabi ko ito kasi nakita ko dito, sa point 1, from verses 1 to 5, ito yung sinasabi ni Paul. And then I also consider it as I study it, meron tayong ini-establish din si Paul sa 6 to 8 that contribute why I say so. And then in 9 to 13, so may 3 point kan ipipresent. At yung 3 point mo ngayon, yun yung sermon mo na nagko-contribute do sa main idea sa ituturo mo. Tingnan niyo po, no, talagang ito po yung proper way of studying, proper way of presenting and teaching it to your congregation. Ito po yan, mga kapatid. Kaya nga, maganda kung matutunan ninyo. Hindi kayo magiging out of context. Ito po yung exegesis. Ito po yung hermeneutics. Ito po yung right way of studying, which is inductive Bible study. Ang laki ng pagkakaiba nito kapag natutunan ninyo po ito. Magiging, sabi nga natin, napakaganda mang ipipresent ninyo sa mga ituturo ninyo. Kasi it is founded on your study, at the same time, purely founded on the word of the Lord. Wala kang kinuha kahit saan. Siguro yung mga illustration mo, yung supporting verses, okay lang yun. Pwede tayo mag-tap noon sa ibang mga material, okay lang. Pero you purely study what you want to teach. Okay, meron na tayong 3 points mga kapatid. Section 4. Na-establish mo na yung unit. Ika-4 na step natin, maglalagay ka ngayon ng main points dun sa mga unit point mo. Dahil 1 to 5 verses yan, ano ba sinasabi dito? So, ang sinasabi dito, bakit kailangan nating, di ba ang gusto mong establish, remove the immoral brother inside the church. For example, ganyan, remove the sexually immoral brother in our assembly. Yun ang gusto mong i-present. Now, bakit mo kailangang i-remove yun? Based on those section limit. Sa verses 1 to 5, bakit natin kailangang i-remove yung brother? Because, so ito ngayon yung point mo, ini-explain mo. Ito yung unit point mo. Ang point 1 mo, because I already judged, sabi ni Paul, I have already judged and decided to deliver such man to Satan. So ang ibig sabihin pala ni Paul, nung sinabi niya, deliver this man to Satan, o to release this man to Satan, ang ibig sabihin pala noon, in the plain meaning, although figurative yan, is because yun ang sinasabi ni Paul dito is to expel, to remove such man in our assembly. Yun palang ibig sabihin niya. Kapag i-deliver mo isang tao, when Paul decided to deliver such immoral man to Satan, ang ibig sabihin nun, i-expel yan sa assembly of the church. Yun pala yung meaning nun. Okay? Kasi yun yung nakita natin sa kabuuan ng main idea at sa bawat verses na nakita natin. Kung saan nakapaloob itong verse 5 mo, nakapaloob doon sa unit 1 to 5, no? At ang ibig sabihin pala doon, na parang this person has already been judged. And because this person has been judged, he has now to be delivered to Satan. Ibig sabihin, you have now to expel that person in the midst of the assembly. Yung palang ibig sabihin nun. So verses 6 to 8, bakit kailangan natin i-disperse ito? Ano, bakit naman, ano sinasabi ng 6 to 8? Because if he is not removed, di ba sinabi doon, he is like a yeast na it can affect the whole dough. Di ba alam niyo pag gumagawa kayo ng dough, konting yeast lang na umaalsa yung buong dough. Ganun din daw. Kung hindi natin i-expel at i-remove itong taong ito, it can really corrupt the entire lamp or the entire church. His single presence will corrupt the whole church. Yun ang sinasabi dito ni Paul sa verse 6 to 8. Kaya kailangan natin i-expel siya. Kailangan natin expel is because he has already been judged and he has to be the believer to Satan. Kailangan natin expel na sila. Okay. The third reason why we need to expel that brothers, verses 9 to 13. Because, ang sabi ni Paul, I already wrote to you. Maraming beses ko na kayong sinulatan, sabi ni Paul, in my previous letters, not to associate with any so-called brother if he is an immoral person. So hindi na tayo dapat makipag-associate. So that's why this person has to be removed from the assembly. Because ito na yung paulit-ulit na sinasabi ni Paul. Yun yung binabanggit niya sa 9:13 na pinaulit-ulit na niya ito na sinasabi sa kanila na you don't need to associate, you don't need to mingle. You don't allow this person to stay in the church. Nung talagang na-rebuke nyo na, kinausap na ng mga leaders, tapos yung talagang ayaw magbago at talagang tingin natin ay it can really affect the whole church, that's the time now that we need to expel them. At meron mga cases na ganyan sa church, mga kapatid. Because if we will not do that, it will corrupt the whole church. And it is a biblical thing. Hindi ito ibig sabihin na para masyado naman tayong sadista. No, it is a biblical thing. This is Bible, no? Ito yung sinasabi ni Paul. It is a guideline that we need to follow as well regarding a person na talagang ayaw nang magbago, hindi na ayaw mag-change, no, talagang makaka-apekto na. And the last resources natin is to let him go. Kasi if not, then it will really affect the whole church. Okay, so yun yung sinasabi dito. Kaya nga, tingnan nyo po, verse 1 to 5, nilagyan lang natin ng 1 or 2 sentence based on those verses. And then yung 6 to 8, nilagyan lang natin because if he's not removed, like a small leaven, that is enough to corrupt the entire lamp, his single presence. O ganun lang, in-explain mo lang siya. And then because I already wrote, sinabi ni Paul dito, I already wrote to you that you don't need to associate with so-called brother if he is an immoral person. Okay, parang nilagyan nyo lang ng sentence yung mga point na yan. At yun yung pinepresente nyo to establish yung why you need to remove such kind of person. Dahil yun yung main idea mo. Okay? Now, step 5. Dahil na-establish mo na, nilagyan mo na. Ngayon, anong interpretasyon nito? Ano yung interpretation? Ano ngayon ang interpretation ko nung verse 5 ko that deliver such man into Satan? The interpretation of 1 Corinthians 5:5 in relation to the unit main point at dun sa section main idea is, ito pala ang meaning ng verse 5. The clause deliver such a one to Satan is a part of a unit, an entire section where the main idea is about removing the one who has his father's wife from among you. Okay? So therefore, in relation to such context, the clause deliver such a one to Satan must simply be understood as Paul's figurative command. So it is a figurative commandment. And what is that figurative? If we try to put the meaning of it, ang ibig sabihin nun, removing the one who has his father's wife from among yourselves. So ngayon, maipipresent po na ngayon na maayos na kung hindi mo kinonsider yung kabuuan ng context, hindi mo bigyan ng main idea, hindi mo in-establish yung ginupo yung bawat section, unit point, at hindi mo nilagyan yon, paano mo maintindihan, no? Paano mo ipe-present sa tao, tinuturo mo yung verse 5 na hindi mo consider yung buong context. Kasi doon sa buong context niyan, doon makikita yung kahulugan nung verse mo. At nakita natin yan, naipakita natin today sa example natin, mga kapatid. Kaya ngayon, ang dali mo ngayon i-present kayo yung verse 5. Ganun palang ibig sabihin nito. Ang ibig sabihin pala ni Paul, to deliver such one to Satan is to remove one who has his father's wife. Come to think of this, why this man is so dangerous? It's because, sabi nga natin, come to take yung wife ng kanyang father, no? Nagkakaroon siya ng sexual sin with his father's wife, and that is not really good, no? Kaya nga dito sexual immorality yan. And then kung itong tao to ay magpa-rebuke, ayaw nang magpabago, ayaw nang na talagang wala nang option talaga, kinausap na, no? But then kung talagang he will remain like that, then the option now is to give him to Satan, to deliver him. And to deliver him to Satan is to remove him now from the midst of the church. Yung palang ibig sabihin nun. Okay? Now, the principle. Ano ngayon ang principle nitong verse 5? Ano yung timeless message nito? Na, kunyari, dadalhin mo na ngayon niya sa ating contemporary time. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, any person who is unrepentant in practicing immorality must be removed from the church so as not to corrupt the entire church. Ang linaw, mga kapatid, no? Yan po yung principle niya. Yan yung timeless message dyan. Na yung timeless message, yan yung timeless message, yung panahon ni Paul na dinidil niya ito sa Corinthian. Yun din yung timeless message sa ating time 2024. Yan din po yung timeless message sa next year. 10 years back, 10 years in the future, yan din po yun. Yun pa rin yan. Applicable yung timeless message na yan kasi yan din yung dinidil natin sa ating generation today. That when this unrepentant, yung nga, yung kinausap na natin and we are able to rebuke, correct, but this person don't really want to repent and still continuously practicing it, then that's the time now that we need to deliver such person to Satan. And that's what it means is that we have to remove now that person from the church so not to corrupt the entire church. So yung pala yung principle ng verse 5 mo. At kung hindi mo yan pinag-aralan in the context, paano mo ma-establish yan? Kung hindi mo kinonsider yung 1 to 13. Ngayon, ano yung application mo? Sabi ko nga, kung wala tayong application, wala. So yung application mo, ikaw lang bahala. Ipe-present mo yan sa tao eh. Pwede kang gumawa ng kwento or pwede kang gumawa ng parang ideal na sa setting mo. Ngayon dito, sabi dito, pwede nating gawing application of 1 Corinthians 5:5, the unrepentant woman who sued her church. Okay? Now, the expulsion, no, parang story ito na create na parang ginamit as an application of 1 Corinthians 5:5. Paano nila ginamit itong application na ito? Tingnan niyo po. The expulsion of an unrepentant immoral person in the church is absolutely necessary for the entire church to be remain spiritually and morally healthy and not to be corrupted. O di ba yun yung main idea mo? Ngayon, magsiset ka lang ng example on our everyday lives. Mga nangyayari in the news or pwede niyong gamitin na parang application ninyo to present yung mga nangyayari. Ngayon dito sinabi niya, a certain church, nagkwento itong siguro yung gumawa nito, a certain church in the US was sued by one of their members. So merong member sa church, hinabla niya yung simbahan when she was removed in the church because of a long-standing immoral relationship. Dahil itong taong ito, meron siyang immoral relationship, so tinanggal siya ng simbahan. But then, hinabla niya itong church na ito sa US. The woman's accusation was that the church is prying in her private sex life, na pinakikialaman daw nitong church na ito yung private sex life, which is okay naman, private yun, okay, but the church lost the case. But then sa US, may tendency that the church can lose the case. Kaya yun nangyari, the church lost the case and paid her hundreds and thousands of dollars. Oh? So yun yung application nito, yung parang nagkwento yung nagawa nito to make it so exciting. So natalo yung church. So ang judgment is to pay this woman and the church paid her hundreds and thousands of dollars. Now, ito po, even if the world will make it harder and harder for us to implement biblical principles, we must uphold God's word and preserve morality inside the church. Even to the point that na that this church is called to fade, but then hindi mababago po yung standard church na ito. Ganun pa rin yun. That even the world will make it harder and harder for us to implement biblical principles. We must uphold God's word and preserve morality inside the church. Okay? So tingnan niyo po yun, no? Napakita natin. Ngayon, ito po yung assignment ninyo. Yung 2 Timothy 2:15. Hindi ko po dinascuss yan ngayon is because ituloy ninyo yung study ninyo. I want you now to make a contextual study of your assignment, yung verse chapter 2 of 2 Timothy 15. Yun ba yun yung pinag-aralan ninyo? Nagkaroon kayo ng inductive Bible study, kayo ng observation, interpretation. Now, I want you all, mga kapatid, to establish yung ginawa natin dito sa 1 Corinthians 5:5. What is the section limit of the passage? Make your own section main idea. State in a very statement. Yan yung parang dun sa out of that section limit mo, ito yung nakita mo, ito yung main idea na gusto mong i-present. And then, what are the unit points? Alin so sa section limit mo, alin ang magkakasama? Ngayon, what are the unit main points? Sa bawat unit point, summarize mo into words, you make your own main points in relation na makaka-contribute do sa main idea. And then what is your interpretation of 2 Timothy 2:15? Anong ibig sabihin niyan? And make a principle. Ano yung timeless principle na gusto ng Panginoon? Yun yung, it is a timeless message na in every generation, yun yung principle na yun. And then make an application. How do you teach your people to apply this? No, in what way? No, magkaroon kayo ng application. And that will be your assignment, mga kapatid. Okay? Now, hindi ko kayo pinilit. Although may mga nag-submit po ng assignment ninyo, hindi ko po na alam ko po na talagang maaaring busy ang lahat. Although naman na dahil itutuloy natin to into another assignment, so I'm giving again the opportunity for all na hindi nag-submit para mag-submit. At yung mga nag-submit, ituloy ninyo yung pag-aaral ninyo, making your main idea, establish the units of the section, establish the unit main points in relation to that main idea, make an interpretation. Although meron na kayong interpretation sa inyong inductive Bible study na ginawa ninyo niyan, ituloy lang ninyo ano yung principle and make an application of the passage. Okay, titigil po tayo dito. And I will allow the rest of the minutes to discuss ano man yung mga questions na hindi malinaw po sa inyo. Okay, I'll stop from here. Okay. Ibibigay ko po yung assignment na yon sa inyo in our chat group and tuloy lang ninyo yung pag-aaral ninyo. And I encourage you po mga kapatid, dito tayo matututo. Kaya make it ano naman. Kasi kung hindi natin ito pa-practice mga kapatid, at parang naririnig nyo lang sa akin, you cannot feel the hand of your how to study really the Bible. No? Yung hindi ko ipipresent lang ito sa inyo na parang ganun lang na hindi niyo naintindihan. Make it as your own. Gawin niyo kasi magbe-benefit po tayong lahat dito, lalo na tayo, mga nagtuturo tayo, nagpe-preach tayo. Kapag natutunan niyo yung ginagawa natin section limit, main idea, yun na po yung preaching ninyo. Yan na po mismo yung teaching ninyo eh. Kinuha na lang niya, dinivide nila nga, ni-establish nyo lang. So I believe, I hope and I pray that nagkaroon tayo ng proper understanding how is it really to make a contextual study of a passage, establishing the main idea of those verses, then ini-establish natin yung mga unit points, no, parang ginugroup. Pag sinabi natin unit points, mga kapatid, ginugroup lang natin yung mga verses na yun into sino yung magkakasama. And then out of that, gagawa kayo ng main idea of those verses. Anong sinasabi ito? Parang sinasummarize nyo lang in each point na yung each point na yun nakaka-contribute dun sa pinaka-main idea mo. Kasi yung main idea mo, parang very ano lang siya, general. Ngayon, malalaman nila yung yung pinaka-meaning ng yan, dahil one or two sentences lang yan, magkakabuluhan nyo, magkakalaman yan dun sa mga main points idea ninyo. Yun yung mag-i-establish nun. Kaya sinabi ko nga, di ba kanina, sa ating pong example, doon sa 1 Corinthians 5 verses 1 to 13. Okay, ang main idea natin out of that verses is removal of an immoral person. Yun, i-present ko yan. Okay, paano mo nasabi na kailangang i-remove sila? So, verses 1 to 5 because of this. Second point, because it is a leaven that it can affect the whole church. Pangatlo, because Paul said to not to associate with such a person. So, ayun, ang linaw, di ba? Na-present mo na maayos, nandun yun. Tapos bigyan mo lang siya ng magandang interpretation, in principle. Ang principle doon is that that we have to remove, no? Kunting expand mo na ng konti yun, no? Why you have to remove and then make an application tip na kung hindi, yun, kagaya nung ginawa nitong application na example natin dito, na kinuha niya yung parang nangyari in the US, pinisent niya yun as an application na kahit anong mangyari, if the church will still sued, hindi mababago pa rin yung stand ng simbahan when it comes to immorality, no? Now, we will still preserve that kind of morality inside the church, which is very good. Ang ganda ng presentation no yun, no? Na para bang we encourage more the people of it. Okay, so yun po yung gagawin natin mga kapatid. And as we end, we still have almost 30 minutes to discuss kung ano man yung mga gusto nyong linawin or meron kayong gustong idagdag out of it. So, but then siguro i-stop ko na muna yung recording before kasi ayaw na nating i-record yung mga pag-uusapan natin po. So, let me just stop this.